This is absolutely seismic. In what's being called the most explosive political development since Brexit, Angela Rayner has just made a decision that could hand Nigel Farage the keys to power. And the timing, absolutely devastating for Labour. While Reform UK is surging to unprecedented heights in the polls, potentially winning 180 seats and becoming the largest party in Parliament, Rayner has pulled the plug on local elections affecting 5 million voters. The accusations flying tonight are nuclear. This isn't just politics anymore. This is about the very survival of British democracy. If this political earthquake shakes you to your core, smash that like button and subscribe, because what's unfolding right now will determine the future of this country. Let's break down exactly what's happened and why it's sending shockwaves through Westminster. Angela Rayner, Deputy Prime Minister and Labour's supposed champion of democracy, has postponed local elections in 9 council areas from May 2025 to May 2026. On the surface, she claims it as about local government reorganisation, but scratch beneath that veneer and what you find is political desperation on an industrial scale. 5 million British voters have just been told they can't have their say this year. 5 million people who were expecting to cast their ballots, to make their voices heard, to potentially deliver a historic blow to Labour's credibility, have been silenced. The areas affected? Essex, Norfolk, Suffolk, Hampshire, East Sussex, West Sussex, Thurrock, and the Isle of Wight. And here, as the kicker, these are exactly the areas where Reform UK was expected to make massive gains. Nigel Farage's response has been absolutely volcanic. He's accused Labour of outright collusion to stave off the threat of Reform UK. These aren't just words thrown around in the heat of political battle. These are serious allegations about the integrity of our democratic system. Farage is essentially saying Labour is rigging the game, moving the goalposts when they about to lose, and denying millions of voters their fundamental right to choose. But here's where it gets even more explosive. The polling data coming out is absolutely catastrophic for Labour and revolutionary for Reform UK. According to the latest MRP polling from More in Common, if a general election were held today, Reform UK would win 180 seats, making them the largest party in Parliament. Labour and the Conservatives would be tied at just 165 seats each. Let that sink in. Reform UK, a party that didn't even exist a few years ago, is now positioned to become the dominant force in British politics. And it gets worse for Labour. Angela Rayner herself is now among the MPs who could lose their seats if Reform's surge continues. The latest analysis shows that based on recent by-election swings, heavyweight Labour figures including Chancellor Rachel Reeves, Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, and Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall could all be swept away in a Reform tsunami. The human impact of what Rayner has done cannot be overstated. In areas like Essex, families who've watched their communities change beyond recognition, who've seen public services stretched to breaking point, who felt ignored by Westminster for decades, finally had hope. They saw Reform UK as their voice, their chance to send a message that couldn't be ignored. Now Angela Rayner has snatched that opportunity away from them, but the political calculation behind this move is as cynical as it is transparent. Labour knows they're facing electoral annihilation. Reform UK has just won their 5th parliamentary seat, beating Labour by just 6 votes in a result that has sent shockwaves through government. This wasn't supposed to happen. Labour wasn't supposed to be losing seats to what the establishment dismissed as a fringe party. The fragmentation of British politics is now undeniable. Reform UK's recent victories show they're not just taking votes, they're taking control. They won a parliamentary seat, 2 mayoralties, and control of several councils in elections that Farage described as proof that Reform is now the real opposition. This isn't protest voting anymore. This is a political revolution in motion. Angela Rayner's favourability ratings have crashed to a devastating 31, the worst ever recorded. The British public can see right through what she's doing. When you sound popular that you have to cancel elections to stay in power, you're not governing with consent. You're clinging to control through constitutional manipulation. The excuse being offered is laughable. Rayner claims she's not in the business of holding elections to bodies that won't exist. But that's exactly backwards. The whole point of democracy is that voters get to decide what bodies should exist, what policies should be pursued, what direction the country should take. By canceling elections, she's telling voters their opinions don't matter, their voices don't count. Their democratic rights are secondary to Labour's political survival. Reform UK sources are being crystal clear about what's happening here. As one party insider told the media, it's quite clear these elections are potentially being cancelled because of the rise of reform. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is political reality. Labour is running scared, and they're willing to undermine democratic norms to protect themselves from the verdict of the voters. The broader implications are staggering. If political parties can simply cancel elections when they're facing defeat, what's to stop them from doing it again? What precedent does this set for future governments? Are we moving toward a system where elections only happen when the ruling party thinks they can win? But here's what Rayner and Labour haven't counted on. The British people aren't stupid. They can see what's happening. Every postponed election, every cancelled vote, every excuse about reorganization just reinforces the narrative that the establishment is terrified of giving people a real choice. The momentum behind Reform UK isn't going away. If anything, this move by Rayner has poured rocket fuel on the fire. When you try to silence people's voices, you don't make them quieter, you make them angrier. When you deny them the ballot box, you don't reduce their determination, you increase it. Nigel Farage has called this a stitch-up, and frankly, it's hard to argue with the characterization. When 5 million voters lose their right to vote, precisely when they are most likely to vote against you, that is not administrative efficiency, that's democratic manipulation. The question now is whether the British people will stand for this, whether they'll accept that their democratic rights can be suspended whenever it's politically convenient for the government, whether they'll allow Angela Rayner to decide when they're allowed to vote and when they not. What we're witnessing isn't just a political crisis, it's a constitutional crisis. The very foundations of British democracy are being tested, and the actions of this government suggest they willing to bend those foundations to breaking point to stay in power. The next few months will determine whether Britain remains a democracy where the people choose their government or becomes something else entirely, where the government chooses when the people get to choose. This is a moment that will define our political system for generations to come. And Angela Rayner has just made her choice. The question is, what choice will